Coming to you from sunny South Carolina, it's the Palmetto Conservative Show with your host, Jim Lee. From the upstate to the low country, from the coast to Columbia, we'll cover what's right and uncover what's wrong in the Palmetto State. If we see it, we say it. We call it like it is in South Carolina. And now, it's the Palmetto Conservative Show. Let's jam.
Welcome into the Palmetto Conservative Show here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network. I'm your host, Jim Lee, part political junkie, part technology geek, part commentator, and often snarky agitator for the application of common sense and the pursuit of critical thinking in the marketplace of ideas, particularly as it relates to the Palmetto State. I don't profess to have all the answers, folks, just an awful lot of relevant questions. Welcome to the post-Thanksgiving edition of the Palmetto Conservative Show. Hope you've had a blessed time, taking time out to spend time with family and to count your blessings. In spite of all that is going on around us, I think it's easy to say that those of us who live in these currently United States of America have much for which to be thankful. And I know that I am. Hopefully you survived Black Friday. I often think that it should be called Green Friday rather than Black Friday because it seemed that most people were out chasing greed, or watching some of the stories of the events of Black Friday and man's inhumanity to man in pursuit of material things is somewhat disturbing. But hey, you see stampedes and riots in other countries chasing things like food and supplies and things like that. So I guess we're not the only ones that do this sort of thing. We just tend to do it for things that aren't what I would consider to be necessities. But anyway, a busy week in spite of the holiday. For those that tuned in last week, I hope that you enjoyed the program and are back again this week for another dose of snark-filled commentary. Again, purpose of this show and our usual and customary disclaimer. Not here to simply give speeches to display rancor or exude vituperation or to engender bitterness. I'm not here to be incendiary, nor am I here trying to incite violence in any way, shape, or form. I'm here with the goal of trying to inflame your senses so that we can have a whole lot more of something that we desperately need in our political discourse, and that is critical thinking. I'll take a somewhat warped view of issues because I try and take a look at things from their root cause. Very often that makes pragmatic solutions a little bit more complicated. I'm unable to achieve quote-unquote principled compromise because I don't believe that one should compromise on principle. But there are times when compromise is necessary when it comes down to tactics and to specific implementation details. But we'll get into some of that as we roll through the agenda this evening that I have teed up. For those of you who are new to the program, I apologize that we still do not have a call-in capability since switching over to the Spreaker network. But hopefully that won't stop you from being a part. You can catch me through the chat room. It's available from the broadcast if you go to Spreaker.com and listen to the show from there. Lots of different things on my mind tonight. Asking myself, what is top of mind for most people, particularly most people who might be inclined to listen to a show such as this. I thought about it from a seasonal perspective. Are folks really thinking about the Thanksgiving holiday, Black Friday, the economy, and so on and so forth? Are they thinking about the pending doom of the upcoming fiscal cliff? Are they concerned about getting prepared for the Christmas season and the season of brotherly love, the season of perpetual hope, the season where many who view this upcoming Christmas holiday from a faith-based context? Is it a time to get prepared for the coming of your Savior? Is it a time to talk about taxes? Is it a time to talk about partisan politics? What is it that's top of mind for most people? And I would say probably all of those things. The average person that I talk to hears enough about what's going on. And notice I say hears about. They don't necessarily hear what's going on, but they hear about what's going on. That they hear all of these things, they don't know what to make of them. The average person is not a political junkie like myself or many of you, and so they don't understand the details, and they just want to throw up their hands. But in trying to decide on what a topic I might cover this evening as top of mind as part of my opening segment here, I continue to settle on something that I keep coming back to because it's been a theme on this show for the better part of a year, and that is taking on the kakistocracy. Now, for those of you new to the program, you may not be familiar with the term. A kakistocracy, as defined by dictionary.com and Webster's, is government by the worst persons, or a form of government in which the worst persons are in power. And I can honestly say that at the federal level, at the state level, at least as it concerns the Palmetto State here, and in looking across the fruited plains, I think you could probably say the same thing about the likes of California, of New York, of parts of New Jersey, of New Hampshire now, apparently, as the governor wants to step into the Christmas tree argument, which is absolutely inane in my view. The Christmas tree is not a religious tradition, it is a secular tradition. It happens to be called a Christmas tree because the season in which people go and get a tree decorated and put it in their house is the Christmas season, which happens to be codified in law. We celebrate on December 25th a federal holiday known as the Christmas holiday. It was so named, I think, because for arguably religious or pagan reasons, that it was a day to commemorate the birth of Christ. But nowhere in our Constitution, nowhere in federal law does it say that on December 25th, yea, verily, you must celebrate the birth of Christ. Now, mind you, I do. Many do. The majority of people in this country do. But the practical reality is that there's nothing the government is doing to favor one faith over another, other than the label by which they gave the day for the federal holiday. The inane arguments from the atheists and the freedom from religion crowd and that sort of thing, that it being Christmas Day is somehow government establishing a religion is, well, it's not critical thinking. It requires the willing suspension of disbelief, and really requires one to lose all sense of perspective and balance and critical thinking. But again, I rant. The kakistocracy, government by the worst persons, a form of government in which the worst persons are in power, and that's where I believe we find ourselves. We are lacking in any credible leadership. As I watch what's going on in Washington, as I watch the issues that are facing my home state, the Palmetto State, South Carolina, we are desperately struggling to try and find leaders, people who are willing to go beyond a title, people who are willing to step out from behind positional leadership and demonstrate true leadership to address the gazillions of issues that we face. It is sad, to be sure, that we have a president who refuses to lead at a time when supposedly everyone in Washington is cognizant and focused on the fiscal issues that we face. Rather than lead, he's out taking the opportunity to continue to campaign, to have photo opportunities, and to feign the notion that he really cares what anybody else thinks. We have a leadership in the Democrat-controlled Senate who continue to make statements that just make my eyes want to bug out of my head, that make me want to just scream when, and this is a quote, the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, when asked, okay, we know that you guys are all for increasing revenue, you want to raise taxes, what specific things are you willing to cut? He simply responded, well, we've already proposed $1 billion worth of cuts, so we really should get credit for that. And he said this with a straight face. $1 billion on a budget of $3.6 trillion isn't even pocket change. These numbers are getting completely out of whack. I don't know what the proper ratio would be, but if you brought that down into dollars and cents that ordinary people like me can understand, then it would be the equivalent of someone with $1 million saying that I'm going to save 1 penny. That's not leadership. But that is where we find ourselves, unfortunately. And it just reminds me that the kakistocracy is firmly entrenched. It also reminds me of my favorite quote, which, if you're a regular here at the Palmetto Conservative Show, you've heard it before, and you're going to hear it again. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is you end up being governed by your inferiors. That's from Plato. And that, I'm afraid, is precisely where we find ourselves. You know, it's been said that a leader is one who, out of madness or goodness, volunteers to take upon himself the woe of the people. There are few such men, and there are few such men so foolish, hence the erratic quality of leadership. What is the woe of the people right now? At the beginning of this segment, I rattled off a whole host of things that I think are the woe of the people. The economic, the deterioration of the culture and society, unemployment, inability to find jobs, the breakdown of the nucleic family, the increase in crime, so many of those things. Where are the leaders willing to step forward and take on these issues? To take on the woe of the people? Well, that's my rant for the start of today's show. I'm glad you're here with us. You're listening to the Palmetto Conservative Show here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You said in the Rose Garden, the day after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying?
Please proceed, Governor.
It is in response to a video, a film. This is in response to a video.
Internet video that we had nothing to do with.
That was spontaneous? Was it a planned attack? Was there a terrorist element to it?
This is a